Howdy everyone. This is a video that I always wanted to make, and this is going to be a summary of what I have seen when this movie is released on DVD. I'm going to do a video essay on this. To whomever that is watching this that hasn't watched it, please turn off the video and come back later after you watch this. Caution, spoilers ahead. Let's start from the beginning, shall we? You probably already know I'm a huge Tobey Maguire Spider-Man fan, and for Tom Holland, I still have a hard time with it because of nostalgia and just how the character is portrayed. But for the first movie, it was a good movie, Homecoming Spider-Man, and then I go back to rewatch Far From Home, so I can get back into the MCU Spider-Man, so I can just go in without having to do recaps. And this movie was a mess. I gave it a 3 out of 10. The first time when I watched it was only in movie theaters, and I wanted to watch it again, but I just never pushed myself to watch it again. And I gave it a 5 out of 6 the first time, and then this second time it was a 3 out of 10. The reason why it was just a mess on what the main story plot was and wanted to be. It was juggling around with a summer vacation vibe, a romantic vibe, PTSD of the aftermath of Tony Stark's death, and now has to decide who to be the next Iron Man, and then it forgets all that for a little bit and then forces a relationship that didn't feel right with Peter and MJ. And I'll make a movie maintenance of it. And the only 3 things that really held it together was its jokes, nightmare scene, and the CGI. That was about it.
I love Spider-Man. I grew up with him before I could even remember liking Spider-Man. And this movie here is a Spider-Man movie. The reason why I say this is that Spider-Man or Peter Parker has to choose to either be the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man or Peter Parker. He can't have both because it puts his identity at risk and his loved ones in incredible danger. I wanted to come home after the movie and dinner that Sarah and I had and to do a live stream about, but I stopped myself because I thought of how would I react if someone literally gets out the opening night and just starts live streaming on any platform and then gets spoiled. I couldn't do that to someone. So, this is why I'm making a video a week later for Spider-Man No Way Home. The whole movie, I was smiling. The atmosphere of the IMAX theater and the community, we were glad to call this a family with a respectful cheer and to stay quiet at the right moments. The next day, I was still smiling if I thought about how I just wanted to go back and watch it again. This movie, holy cow. At the end of this video, I'll tell you my rating. So let's do the pros and cons of this movie. Let's start with the pros. Holy shit, this movie has so much to absorb with the villains, side characters, and so much more. And the tearjerkers. And just the redemption of the mistakes that Sony made but made it up in such a way, in a creative way. I was terrified of what they were doing when I saw the first trailer of the movie, and it was with Green Goblin and Doc Ock and Sandman and a few others. But with their story arcs, with their story arcs being completed so long ago, and bringing them back before their death or their redemption story, that can definitely destroy a whole trilogy in a second. But how they shot this movie in a way. You knew they cared and were scared as shit if they messed up. I am very impressed and have my utmost respect for William Dafoe of performing his own stunts in this movie. He's freaking 66 years old and he can still kick some ass. Doc Ock and Sandman, I was afraid that their redemption stories would be destroyed because Doc Ock had control again at the end of Spider-Man 2 to destroy his weapon and sacrifice himself, or his invention, not his weapon, himself for the better of mankind. When they showed him in the beginning of No Way Home, it showed that it took him right before he was defeated by Peter, and that was a concern. But how they made him whole again and to allow him to help at the end was incredible. But the biggest tearjerker of his lines were when he saw his Peter and said, "Peter, my boy, it's good to see you again. You're all grown up." Man, that hit me hard because he was a father figure to Peter, needed and to save him because of the arms taking over his mind. The return of the other Spider-Men were amazing, and how they brought them in. I know that I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed for not that meme of them pointing at each other, but it was kind of already stolen by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And for the part where Tom's Spider-Man couldn't get to MJ, allowed to give Andrew's Spider-Man a second chance, and I felt that. Everyone felt that in that theater, and felt it for him. And we were cheering and crying for him for like he needed to take a moment of he had a second chance. And this movie has a theme of second chance, of choice, and that's incredible. I'm going to tell more about the movie's pros and the video essay, but now let's move to the cons. And these cons are very, very few, and I'm glad it's few. Not every movie's like, if it's a perfect movie, it's not a perfect movie. There's going to be like a little tweak of a con in there and whatnot. But to show why I have a hard time with Tom Holland's character, it's not because of the actor, it's about the writing of the character that is annoying. And that is the casting of the spell, of him just being a chatterbox and messing up the spell and like adding stuff and removing stuff, and just that's not how that spell works. And now he's telling the villains that they have a second chance, and then does a full 180 a few times throughout the movie of helping and then not helping. And that's just a little thing. There was very few cons, like I said, in this movie, except one that is the climax of the movie, and that's when Peter's punching Goblin to the point of death. And this is what Goblin wants. He wants to break Peter and break Spider-Man, and Tobey Spider-Man comes in to stop Peter from using the glider to kill Goblin. And this moment is shot very, very well. And then Tobey is then stabbed by Goblin, which great power comes great responsibility. And that's what should have been said. Such a moving arc for Tobey's character, and then Goblin is cured and now is back to normal, and then Tobey looks at him, and Norman is holding his hand and says, "I forgive you," and then dies. But they were scared at this point of, alright, we're not going to kill him off because I know a lot of people are going to throw like a huge fit about, but yet I would have accepted it. I think that would have been a beautiful thing, because in the first one, Norman gets stabbed by the glider, or stabbed, his son gets stabbed, I don't know, everybody's getting stabbed in that trilogy, but if that was like the arc of the death, however, that would have been really good, because he sacrificed himself for Norman to become whole again. But then it's like, nah, I've been stabbed before, I'll just walk it off. I'm definitely going back to watch it again, and I would give this movie a 9 out of 10. With Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man 2 right between, like right with each other. It's so good. This was a Spider-Man movie because consequence and choice, and I hope all of you will tune in to our next episode of the Gaming Times podcast that will premiere on the 31st of December, and later a video essay of Spider-Man No Way Home. As always, have a wonderful day, a Merry Christmas, and there's another con I totally forgot about, and it was about Ben Parker. So Ben Parker has been mentioned in this movie, but it's just by the other Spider-Man for Andrews and Toby's. That's their backbone of the movies, and they don't have him mentioned in this one except in Far From Home just by luggage, and also in Homecoming, but that's about it in that storyline for the MCU. So he's not a big part of this, and I don't know. It's just it is what it is. I liked how it was. It was very impactful for the death. It's just if it was said about the with great power comes great responsibility, I would have loved it if Peter or Toby's character said that on while dying. That would have been amazing. But I liked how it was portrayed, how it said, because every time, like the first time was great power comes great responsibility. The second one in Andrew Garfield's, it was worded differently, but it was the same premise. And then this third one, it was still said differently, but everybody knew about it. And but yeah, it would have just been amazing. There's a little theory that I have, or a conspiracy, or if I reworked it from the beginning, if they knew where they were going, I believe, like how Happy is to Peter, it would have been amazing if Happy, everybody, his name in the movie or the MCU was just Happy. Everybody was trying to figure out who his name was. I know that people, certain characters in the MCU would find out really quickly, but his name was just Happy. But and then later down the road, he was actually just always protecting Peter, and found out that Happy was actually Ben Parker. He just couldn't be around anyone for a long time. And then they would try to find out how to introduce him to Aunt May again. But yeah, this is such a good movie. I definitely recommend everyone watching this in theaters. It's a great experience. It's just the community of the MCU is terrific. I've been at movies to watch multiple Marvel movies, and where I'm from, we watched Endgame. There's people in front of us that were just talking, just chattering, and we told them to shut up so we can watch the movie, because we came here to watch the movie, not to socialize in front of everyone. Infinity War, that was a great experience. I did get a migraine at the end because we were jam-packed in the front of the movie theater, which sucks, so I was able to pre-order these seats of Spider-Man No Way Home, and it was such a great experience. But anyways, again, have a good one.